Do you hesitate to speak in English, or do you refrain from speaking in English? Have you ever felt like this, screaming within and just wanting to run out of the classroom with fear, anxiety, hesitation? Today's video is all about this. Before you begin learning, don't you think it's important to know what is the problem? You need to identify your problem. When the purpose is clear, when you identify your problems, 25 to 30% of the problem gets solved. And then you can enroll in some course, in some training sessions, or be under the guidance of a mentor. So identifying the problem actually helps. This is what I did when I began learning this language. Many learners do that. What is the difference between hesitate, refrain? So before I begin today's video, my name is Renee Rose Matthew. I'm a CELTA certified tutor and also an author. I have been into this field for almost 6 to 7 years. You can go through the channel description and all the other videos that speaks about the aspects of learning, mental health and language. Language learning and psychology are interdependent. Okay, what is the meaning of refrain? You can think and let me know. Refrain from smoking in public places. Refrain from speaking, especially when I know that my grammar is not good or when I don't have enough words. Refrain, refrainment. Refrain simply means to avoid. To avoid. It can happen consciously. It happens consciously most of the time. But there are underlying aspects. To be more clear, there are underlying subconscious aspects. What is the meaning of that? There will be hidden aspects buried deep in your mind. And that is why you refrain. That is why you avoid. Refrain from speaking because of this reason. Now, even before we speak more about refrainment and refrain, what is the meaning of hesitate? Because most of you tell the tutors, most of you tell me as well, I have this hesitation. I hesitate to speak in English because of so and so reason. You can think about the meaning. I'll give you a couple of seconds. You hesitate because you are reluctant, because you're uncertain about certain aspects of life or of the mind. It can also happen because of a wavering mind. It is not your problem. You're a human being. It's okay to waver at times. It's okay to be uncertain in life. It's also okay to be reluctant at times. There are underlying aspects, and most of the time, hesitation is a result of so many things. Subconscious. What if you had a very strict teacher during your childhood who just passed blunt comments saying, "Why do you ask questions? Only you have this question. Nobody else has got the question. Weren't you listening when I was teaching? Weren't you paying attention while I was explaining this?" It could be an English teacher. It could have been a physics teacher or a math teacher. I've shared about my experience on my YouTube channel. A blunt comment, whether it's intentional or unintentional, can always mar the psychology of a developing brain, of a child, even of an adult. So you have to identify that. We cannot take revenge, we cannot question, but you have to identify. Now, why do we hesitate? Many of you will say, because I'm scared, I have fear, I have anxiety. So check. So let's examine those aspects. Are you ready? It need not be that you just hesitate or that you just refrain. You could be experiencing both, but that's okay. It's not that you're abnormal or there is a very big problem with you. No, that is not the idea. Before I proceed, let me show you this picture. Observe it. It looks a bit funny. It actually depicts the fear and anxiety of human mind. We cannot say it is mental illness. So this was a painting done somewhere in the 18th, 19th century by a Norwegian artist. And he clearly depicts the anxiety, fear. The title of this particular painting is Scream. Scream. I want to add something. At times you may feel like screaming. It's not because of madness, but you just want to let out, ventilate whatever you have within you. Fear, anxiety can make you look hollow. It can have a lot of void within you. It can start affecting you, and that leads to hesitation. Hesitation gradually leads to refrainment, refraining yourself from different aspects of progressing, developing, and moving forward in life. It's not just about the language learning journey. So, have you ever experienced this? At times, you will not be able to scream, you have to suppress, you will have to repress. That leads to regression. You may have to just pretend as if everything is okay. So, fear, anxiety, and the turmoil that somebody goes through, the agony, it's not necessary that it happens only when you go through the most turbulent situations and phases of life. No, it can also happen in your daily life, at some point in your normal day-to-day life. It can also not affect you much. For some time you may experience fear and anxiety, and then everything is back to normal. You will feel like screaming. So outwardly, the artist is not trying to say that you have to always scream, but this is the kind of mindset that you have when you face fear and anxiety. You may not know where to run. You'll feel as if your brain and heart is running helter-skelter. And that leads to a wavering mind. So what should you do? You cannot control. How can you control? For some time you can regulate. You can think about the aspects, identify the aspects so that you can slow down the pace and slowly regulate. That itself will eventually control, because if you initially begin controlling, that would lead to more fear and anxiety. So identifying the problem is very important even before you think about fluency. The first step is to identify the problem. Now we'll go to the aspects that can be a big obstacle in your life. Look at the different forms of these words: hesitate, hesitating, hesitation, refrain, refrainment, refraining. It's so nice to pronounce these words. It's easy to write them down also if you know the spellings, but it's not very easy to experience them. And if you have been at it for a very long time, don't you think it's high time that you identify the problems, which will definitely help you to come out of the problem? It will not happen in a day, but gradually you will experience the difference. So when you take medicines for a health issue, for any problem, even a viral fever or anything that you're suffering from, you will experience the difference. Oh, I think there is a change. I can feel the difference. So feeling the difference is very important. So now let's go to the different aspects. I've written a few points here, so let's examine one by one. You have uncertainty, reluctance, wavering mind. So what is the main word for that? Hesitate. You know that you did not go to an English medium school. So you are uncertain whether you will be able to do it. You have that wavering mind because you didn't have the environment. So if the environment is a problem, you can create your own environment. I have done 2 videos on this. Because when you listen to people from the rural and village background who speak beautiful English, just listen to them. At the end point, they always tell you that I created the environment because I did not even have the financial backup to go to a school. Forget about the non-English medium school or bilingual languages used in the school. I couldn't go to a school, but they created the environment. Another thing is, at times, because of your wavering mind, you will stop yourself from thinking in English. You may not know. If you don't know, it's okay. You can learn. When you don't know certain things, you can always educate yourself. You can listen to the video on my channel or somebody else and begin thinking in English. I've done 2 videos on this specifically. Use that to begin thinking in English. Now, when do you hesitate to think in English? One is when you don't know, really when you don't know. Otherwise, it happens when you know that you have this mind which is stopping you. Uncertainty. Is this going to help me? If I just keep thinking in English, will that help my speech? Is it going to modify or bring about a progress in my speech? That's going to be a question. So you slightly hesitate. Subconscious mind gets affected. Another reason could be because of this. When a teacher would have stopped you from asking questions or speaking, just speaking in English, you have to identify it's not for your good. That's okay, it's the past, you cannot erase. You can delete it from your memory, just format it and begin thinking and speaking today. No problem, who's stopping you? The next reason could be when you don't know what to choose, because today you are in this loop. You have a lot of resources today. So when you have too many resources in front of you, whether it's YouTube or other websites or a lot of platforms, you may not know which one is going to work for you. In that case, it's sometimes lack of awareness. Sometimes you prefer to be ignorant. That is actually dangerous. If you don't know something, you can always unlearn, relearn, and again continue learning. But when you're ignorant, try to update. And after that, when you choose a particular resource and a platform, you can stay focused, because too many things can always spoil the essence and fun of learning. Fun is not just having fun and entertaining yourself, but also being immersed, engrossed, and just forgetting yourself when you begin learning, because that can help you with progress. That can lead to easy access to the different facets and aspects of language. Otherwise, everything will remain hidden. You may feel that there are still more secret tips that will help you to learn the language. There is nothing like that. Another reason is procrastination. Even when you have all the resources, some people just keep postponing it. You procrastinate. You think it's going to come tomorrow, it's okay, after 10 days, 3 days, I'll begin doing it. Now is the right time. But you don't have to swallow the big chunks of language learning aspects. You have to take it step by step. You don't have to eat it just like that without swallowing, without chewing, without also realizing and relishing what you're trying to eat, because it is going to affect your digestion. So you have to be sure about what you're doing, what resource is working for you. This will help you to identify your problem, why I want to learn it, and what is the kind of method that will help me. Before I proceed, let me show you this. So we all are in this loop. Loop means what? We have the feedback loop, we have the suggestion loop, we have the learning loop. Whatever we do, it comes back again. So some learners feel that I try so many things, but still it's like a loop. I'm in this loop. You need to come out of the loop. You cannot be in this big whirlpool forever. Of course, you have this cycle going on, because life is like that. That strength will give you the motivation. So begin with the action, and the action will give you the motivation. What is the next point? The next point is regarding refrain. Refrain means what? Avoid. So you have identified your problem. You can write down the problems. So when you solve hesitation, refrain will also fade away. The refrainment, the refraining act itself will fade away gradually, gradually, gradually. It happens naturally. So first you pay attention to this. Why do I hesitate? Is it because of fear? What causes the fear? Why am I scared? Is it only when I speak to tutors? Is it only when I speak in English? Or is it because I am hesitating to speak only during meetings? So when you identify the problem, it begins fading away. Refrain. The zone of refrain begins fading away when you begin identifying the problem, because you slow down your pace with hesitation. You no longer hesitate. It will not happen in a day, but just try it out. The hesitation aspect will come down, and then you will no longer remember refrain. This is what I did when I was a child. It was a big challenge to speak in English when I was a child. Of course, English is not my native language, but I used to hesitate. I had the wavering mind. I used to be a bit reluctant because I knew that I was not very good with the language. But I never refrained. I never avoided. I used to go on the stage, speak, sing songs in English. Gradually, I was able to identify my problem. So identifying the problem, identifying the aspects of learning the language, reading aloud. Of course, I had rigid teachers. I had physics, math and English teachers who were quite rigid in class. The moment they entered, we used to feel like flying off or screaming and running out, but we didn't have any option. Identify the problem, work on it, and then this hesitation drops. You will no longer know the meaning of refrain. So refrain from hesitating. So refrain from focusing on the problem. How do I do that? By identifying the problems. Hesitation will drop and gradually refrain also. Okay, the next one is, when do you avoid? Consciously, some learners avoid when you choose to only learn grammar. I've spoken about this through many videos. You cannot afford to only learn grammar. Of course, there are people who do short videos. Even I do short videos on English phrases and grammar, but you should also learn from a context. When you know that grammar is not the only aspect leading towards fluency, helping you towards fluency, why do you have to only learn grammar? Listen to me very carefully. I'm not saying that grammar is not important. It is one of the aspects. So when you know that grammar is not the only aspect, why do you have to focus on it? So that is kind of refraining yourself from learning or focusing on other aspects. When you know that you have to begin from a certain point that you left consciously or subconsciously, you will have to return to that point, understand, identify the problem, and begin from there. It happens with everyone. Maybe you had a strict teacher who stopped you from speaking, just like that. You cannot stay like that forever. Or maybe you were used to the wrong methods of learning. Maybe your teachers used bilingual languages. Go to that point, begin from there. After taking a lot of sessions, after speaking to different tutors or even co-learners, you know the wrong path. You know that somewhere you're wrong, and you're quite clear with the wrong methods that you have been using all throughout your life. So by now, most of the learners know that reading is important, speaking is important, listening, and also writing. Keep writing away for some time, it helps, but still look at the other three aspects. When you know the right methods, when you know that you have a lot of resources available for free on YouTube also, you choose to keep it away. You are a bit reluctant. At the same time, you're uncertain. I'm not saying that you should not be uncertain. It happens when you don't know, when you really don't know how to go about it. So I've done videos on that also. So when you hesitate, you have fear, anxiety, or sometimes you may just face that wavering point in your life where you know that you have some problem while using a new language or while using a new tool. But you should work on that point. Otherwise, that leads to avoiding it completely. So you refrain from speaking during the meetings. You refrain from speaking on stage. Even before on stage, when you have friends who speak in English, you'll run away from there. So that is avoiding. Let me avoid because I have this hesitation. No. First comes kind of hesitation where you have the fear, anxiety, wavering mind is there, uncertainty is there. And then the final point is avoid, run away, escape. Are you able to relate to all these things? Because there was a time when I faced all these things. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I never refrained myself. I always took part in activities, whether it is craft, art, singing, not just in English, but even in Hindi. I used to experiment because that is important for your intonation, the clarity with which you speak. Everything is connected to your skills. So I'll just tell you in a nutshell what happens. You would have been experiencing a wavering mind. You would have also been uncertain about a lot of things because of grammar, vocabulary, or the environment that did not satisfy your needs to speak in English. Or it could have been any other aspect that just cut down your access to learning a language. It can be English or anything else. So all these things come under hesitation. You hesitated for a very long time. You were not able to scream like this picture. And then this hesitation gradually developed to refrainment, refraining from different levels and phases of life where you had to really work on your skills and also exhibit your skills. Only when you exhibit your skills, people will know what you're good at. Okay, so even if you don't showcasing the skill is different, but you should be able to exhibit it in some way. Finally, this is for anyone who is experiencing fear, hesitation specifically, and who refrain from speaking in English or who refrain from doing anything that you really want to do in life. Without the wear and tear of your muscles, your body will not become fit. Your body will not become healthy, right? That is why you do exercise. You will have muscle pull, cramps. Sometimes you may even experience pain. Without hesitation, without refraining from something, you will not understand the real difference and the essence of confidence and lack of confidence. Without experiencing hesitation, without refraining, you will never understand the pivotal role, the significance of confidence. One thing that you have to remember is, do not prolong, do not continue to be comfortably settled in this whirlpool of hesitation and refrainment. So this is what I want to tell you. If you hesitate, if you refrain, it's okay, it's normal, it's natural, but do not continue to be in that whirlpool, because sometimes you may feel that you have to be entitled, you may have to succumb to this delusional aspects of being always positive, being always confident, try to always show that you're doing something important in life. No, nothing like that. You can experience hesitation, you can also refrain at times, but what is it that we are trying to help you out with? You have to identify your problem so that you come out of it slowly, gradually, and so that you don't continue to be suffocating, so that you don't create that void in your life. You have to fill this void with something and make it productive. Why? Not for the happiness of others, but for your own happiness. Happy learning.